Travel all over the countryside, asphalene, travel all over the countryside, asphalene family.
In this segment of Life on the Road, we thought we'd just introduce you to the Triton, which has been getting us and the van from place to place around Australia, and give a few tips to anyone that's considering making a similar trip and what they may want to equip their vehicle with. First and foremost, as you can see, it's a four-wheel drive, which is not only necessary for the towing capacity of being able to tow a van around, but it'll also mean that you can access a lot more places that aren't accessible by a regular vehicle. As you can see, we've got factory fitted tyres, which have been quite adequate for the sorts of driving that we've done, but I'd highly recommend considering getting all-terrain tyres, which may just mean there's some more places that you're able to get to and less likely to get a puncture. The next thing is a snorkel. So we had a snorkel fitted while we were in Perth. Initially I thought snorkels were only necessary for being able to do river crossings, but it was recommended to us that they're also a good idea for reducing the amount of dust that you actually get in your engine. So the intake for air is much higher, and you'll have potentially cleaner air going into your engine. Another thing that we had fitted while we were in Perth was a pre-fuel filter. So when you are driving in remote locations, there's a risk that the fuel that you're actually putting into your engine isn't as clean as it might be in a more metropolitan location. So that just helps to keep the fuel clean and less likely to get problems from dirty fuel. Another thing that we had fitted before we left Melbourne was a bonnet protector and some headlight protectors. Obviously when you're doing a lot of driving on unsealed roads, there's a risk of stones flicking up and causing damage. Another thing I'd highly recommend is getting a sticker for your windscreen, just in case you get a chip there. We actually had a couple of chips, as you can see here and here, both within 2 successive days. And by putting those stickers on, it's just saved us the necessity to have our whole windscreen repaired. We'll wait till we get back to Melbourne and have potentially a number of other chips in our windscreen repaired at the same time. Another thing to bear in mind is your electrical plug for the connection into the van. One thing that we've had fitted is a electrical connection into our fridge. With driving 4 or 5 hours and often in quite warm locations, there's a real danger that your fridge could defrost, and by having that connection, our fridge is actually operating while we're driving long distances, which keeps all our food cold and fresh. Another thing that we've had fitted is airbags for our suspension. That's to make sure that we maintain enough weight on our front driving tyres when there is the weight on our tow bar. But an alternative to that, which I would highly recommend, is a weight distribution hitch, which is another thing for achieving that same outcome. They cost about the same price, but I think the weight distribution hitch is more effective at actually distributing weight to your front steering tyres. Last and not least is the nudge bar. Obviously, with the sort of driving that we're doing, which is in remote locations and a lot of wildlife and wandering stock on the road, there's a real danger that you could hit them while you're driving. We've been lucky enough not to have that happen, but I'd actually recommend over a nudge bar that you actually go the full bull bar, just as an extra precaution. So that's it. Hopefully you found that useful. The idea is if there's anyone else contemplating a similar trip, that I've given you a couple of tips that may help you prepare your vehicle.
In this episode of The Wheel Australia, we explore the top end and visit places such as Katherine, Darwin, Litchfield and Kakadu National Parks, and the thermal springs at Mataranka. Now, travelling in the Northern Territory, we can really feel the heat. The hot springs and Edith Falls in Katherine felt to us like a treat. Darwin in the Top End, Litchfield's a short drive away. Swimming at Florence and Wanky Falls was a great way to spend the day. If you go to Mindle Beach Market, Darwin, be sure to see MD. Looks like a didgeridoo playing condition, the best you'll ever see. Imagine walking through an art gallery with no windows, walls or doors. This is what it was like seeing the rock art in the caves at Kakadu that we explored. Kakadu's billabongs are filled with bird life, Cahill's Crossing is filled with crocs. Arnhem Land is filled with beautiful scenery, best viewed from high upon the rocks. Snorkeling in the Bitter Springs Mataranka, a warm and clear blue stream, the river lined with palm trees, which filters the sunbeams.